Not ready for that. I'm with John Jekovich. It's Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, and we're discussing his book, Their Mother's Son, and we're at the chapters now where he's crossing the English Channel. After many, many months of training for combat in the States and in Haverfordwest Wales, it's getting close to crossing the English Channel to get to combat.
Yeah.
To get to combat. These are just young kids, 17, 18, 19 years old, and they're fighting for this country. But before I start reading, on page 226, Crossing the English Channel, let me ask you a few questions. Were you drafted or enlisted?
Drafted.
During World War II, how did the draft notice come? Was it served in person?
Welcome. Your neighbors that picked you up to serve your country.
How did that present you? In the mail?
Telegram.
In a telegram?
Yeah.
So they personally, the U.S. Army personally sent you a telegram,
Yeah.
and tell us again what it said.
Says, good afternoon, sir. Your country wants your service, and we appreciate you for coming into the polls.
And how old were you at that time?
19.
19. And did you expect it coming?
The what?
Did you expect the draft notice coming?
Oh, yeah.
Did your older brother get drafted or
No, he was in school. He got a discharge.
But he ended up in the service. How did he end up in the service? Your older brother ended up in the service. How did he end up in the service?
He ended up in the service almost after the war was over, treating GIs how to drive a Jeep.
Did your older brother see any combat?
No.
And
He
so
never got out of the States.
He never got out of state. So what was his goal in the Army? What did he do?
I just told you, he's teaching GIs how to drive a Jeep.
Okay. Did your younger brother get drafted?
No, he enlisted in the Coast Guard.
Was he expecting to get drafted, so he enlisted?
Yeah, and this is probably 6 months before he got 19.
So he beat the system because he didn't want to get drafted.
Well, he wanted to get what he wanted the Coast Guard. He figured that was a soft job than what he did.
What do you mean by that, a soft job?
Well, if he didn't pick the Coast Guard and he got drafted, they picked him where they needed him, he could be in an infantry outfit.
How do you think he would have done in the infantry?
Huh?
How do you think your younger brother would have done in the infantry combat?
How would he?
How would he have done? How do you think he would have done?
My older brother?
Younger brother.
Not too good.
How would your older brother done in the infantry?
Well, I don't know, Dave. I don't know. I don't know how they condition on the combat conditions. I don't know.
So your younger and your older brother never seen combat?
No, they always weaseled out.
Weaseled out. So you were the only one.
Well, see, I get all the raw deals and all this bullshit and everything else. And how come you're so glossy all the time?
Well, how did you get along with your younger and older brother when you were teenagers or preteens?
Well, my older brother was never home. He was in school.
In school.
And Rookie was wandering around. We had to go down and paint the post, pick him up every 3 months.
What do you mean, pick him up?
Oh, he ran away.
Okay. So you didn't get along with him too well?
Pardon?
You didn't get along with him too well?
Well, I mean, I didn't. It wasn't me. I didn't swear and curse with them. They did that. We just recovered with them. That's it.
I got you.
They had to pick up David out of paint and post, and Stevie was, I don't know. He was in school.
Okay. So I just wanted to let the record be straight. You're the only one that was drafted, and you're the only one in your family that served active military combat.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I'm not talking about the other relatives. I don't think the other relatives got in.
No. And, okay, well, I'll start reading Crossing the English Channel. And your final days are with Gene in Haverfordwest, and you're getting ready to go to active combat. I turned to Jean and repeated what I had said several days ago. The advance party had left for the continent, and several days ago, and it was only a matter of time before we would be gone also. There was no advisory, no time for goodbyes. We would be restricted in a short time. We would be gone. She murmured with what a cruel and inhuman way to depart, not even giving the consideration of saying goodbye. I retorted that was the Army way of doing things, and it was mainly for security. She smiled and said that she would be only a minute to freshen up a bit.
There's what?
She smiled and said, I will only be a minute.
Now who's this?
I'll freshen up a bit. She's going to freshen up. Go in the restroom and put some makeup on or something. Freshen up a bit. I nodded and smiled as she departed. As I sat there waiting for Jean's return, I thought of how much I would miss all of this. The visits each evening, the talks we would have, and how she would look, and finally her loving parents. I settled up with the server and gave her a generous gratuity, as she has been considerate and efficient. Jean came back in a short order. As she walked towards me, I was struck by her graciousness and her loveliness. The thought raced through my mind that there were available rooms upstairs, and I wondered how she would react if I approached her regarding the feasibility of this idea. The ride back seemed much faster than slow, meandering we had experienced coming down. It was almost dark and we reached the town's limits. Jean wanted to go straight up to the cottage rather than spend some time at the dance that was in progress at the auditorium. As we reached the front gate, I started to open it for her, and she hesitated momentarily and whispered ever softly, "Let's walk over to our favorite spot, the benches overlooking the town." I agreed and put my arm around her waist and kissed her on the cheek as we made our way toward the benches. We sat there listening to heavy bombers as they came overhead, then faded into silence as they reached the channel. Jean sat close to me with her head buried in my shoulder, and a scent of her perfume reminded me of the other such occasions thousands of miles away in another world. What were you thinking back there at the inn just before we left? As she fingered the zipper on my field jacket. I pretended that I did not understand, but reluctantly said I wanted to take her upstairs, but thought better of it. I was waiting for a reply from her. I was curious about her reaction, but she said nothing. I tipped my head and kissed her. Then she put her arms around my neck and whispered, "I would have gone with you." I was flabbergasted at the revelation. I drew her apart and looked at her. "Say that again," I blurted out as she once again snuggled into my chest. "You didn't ask, so I am not repeating myself." With that, she reached up and kissed me. It was then I realized that I had hidden my true feelings about Jean from myself.
Did you ever figure out how she wound up?
No, I never figured out how she wound up. Her name was Jean Young. We found out how Anne McHaney, your girlfriend in Owensboro, Kentucky, ended up.
Yeah, Jim, yeah.
She's dead now, but you personally talked to her. 80 years later, I got you her number, and you talked to her, and how'd Anne McHaney sound?
Yeah.
How'd she sound when you talked to Anne?
Well, she was 90 years old, too.
And how'd she sound?
People, yeah.
And then what did you do after you hung up? When you talked to Anne, what was the first
Well, I
thing?
figured I'd never call her back.
About the picture.
I took the pieces down, put my mother back up.
Okay, so Ann was pretty much on her way out at that time.
Yeah.
And she died a short time after your last conversation. Now, Jean Young from Haverfordwest, being that's such a common last name, and being that's 80 years ago, my private investigators had a very difficult time getting any information. Extremely difficult.
Right.
Because the last name is Young, that's as common as Smith. And secondly, we're dealing with Haverfordwest in Wales, which don't keep much records. They don't keep much records today, not like everything in the United States. So we have no idea what happened to her. But as we move forward with Renee, that you met in Paris, we came to the conclusion that Renee, that you spent some time with, the former nun, ended up being killed.
Yeah.
She ended up being killed, shot. And that's how the three turned out. Ann from Owensboro is dead of natural causes. Jean Young from Haverfordwest, we don't have no idea. We can't get a hit on her.
When I left for the continent, that was the last time I saw her.
And then we know for a fact that Renee was assassinated.
Yeah.
And tell me about that. Who killed her? Who killed Renee?
Who?
Who killed Renee?
A resistance fighter, yeah.
And where was she at the time when she was killed?
Out in the woods someplace.
Yeah. So that's the three. I imagine Jean is also dead by now too.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was, what, 30 years old then?
But that gets me to a question. That gets me to a question when we're thinking about these three ladies and they're all departed us. You're going to be 99 years old this year. What is your secret to your longevity?
Luck.
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 Luck. Did you hear that, ladies?
Yeah.
Luck.
Luck.
Anything else besides luck?
No.
You said you had
I didn't smoke or drink.
And you said you had the hardest life.
Oh, yeah. I had the hardest life all the way around.
But you never took a prescription in your life.
Huh? No.
You ran.
I never drank.
You never drank. You never smoked.
Yeah.
You ran. You jogged for 80 plus years, and you could still read the newspaper without wearing any glasses.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Maybe it was just luck.
It's luck. Just luck.
99 this year.
Huh?
Super soldier.
Super soldier. You're a super soldier.
Super soldier. Yeah.
99 this year.
Huh?
Did you have any other thoughts besides luck?
What?
Any other thoughts besides luck? How you're going to be 99 this year and in pretty damn good shape.
Well, I didn't do a lot of things that killed a lot of people.
Like what?
Well, they drank, they smoked, they didn't get enough sleep, they didn't eat well.
Did you always eat well?
Well, at times, yeah.
Did you get the proper sleep?
No, mostly not.
Did you have a lot of stress in your life?
When I was overseas, yeah, because I was worried about my mother and Sally.
Yeah.
I told them, how's the furnace going?
Yeah. Did your brothers that never went overseas and never were in combat, did they take care of your mother and Sally? When you were overseas, did your brothers...
Well, they would come and visit her on Sunday afternoon, and my mother would make a pie, cake, or something. They'd have that for 2 hours and then leave.
I see. And that was about it.
And my mother lived alone.
But for the longest time with her daughter, Sally Ann, right?
Yeah, well, Sally was young. Sally was 12, 13 years old.
Uh-huh. Speaking of your mother, there's the back page you've devoted to her. And let me read that. I just gazed upon this now and found out. This is what John Jekovich says on the back page of his book. Mother did not relish the role of motherhood, yet she excelled in the functions and responsibilities. She was always quick to the point out its hardships and tribulations, but did not ask for help nor seek out sympathy from anybody. She was a stern taskmaker, always seeking the best for her children, narrowed by her own limited experience and knowledge. Her one outstanding trait was her integrity and an unabated loyalty to those who cared for her and loved mother's unflinching religion always stood her in good stead, and it was her salvation and the great source of courage and determination. Although her deep religious convictions were a staunch support for her, the one struggle she constantly fought against was a severe sense of loneliness, which was always with her. Even though she would never admit it had its hold on her, it was quite apparent to anyone who loved her. So she always had a problem with loneliness.
Yeah.
Her husband died when he was in his 40s. Did your mother ever consider of remarrying?
No, no, no.
Did your mother ever date anybody?
No.
And there's a classic example. Her husband was Marian Jekovich, and he died in his early 40s. He was an immigrant, but much different than these immigrants today.
Yeah.
He came and earned his living. He worked hard, making cement, laying driveways, laying sidewalks. And the strenuous work basically gave him a heart attack and killed him.
Yeah.
He was doing the work of 3 men.
Yeah.
And it's ironic how the immigrants today, the illegal immigrants today, he took the right path. Marian Jekovich took the legal path, but coming through Ellis Island. But the illegal aliens today, they get a brand new cell phone. They get housing, many times an expensive hotel. They get a budget.
Credit cards.
Credit cards.
Yeah.
So what a difference between your father and these legal immigrants today. When your
The
father...
ones that deserve it never got it.
What?
The ones that deserved what they should have
Never got it.
never got it.
So your father was basically worked to death.
Yeah.
And in his final days, you were about 14 or 15 then?
Yeah.
Tell us how the final day went. Who contacted you, and what did you see upon your father's death? What did you see?
Who contacted me? The
Who
police?
contacted you? You said
police?
the police?
The police?
Yeah, the police.
The police says your father got hurt. He's at the hospital, and we'll take you down there to see him.
And then what?
And they took me down to the morgue instead of taking me to the hospital.
And what did they do in the morgue? What did they tell you to do?
Well, he had a severe heart attack.
But what about his pockets and identifying?
You know, he had a couple of pennies in one pocket, a quarter and a dime, and then that pack of tissue paper for cigarettes. You know,
Yeah.
make them up.
Rolling papers.
And then they had the can, put the tobacco in it.
Prince Albert.
Yeah, Prince Albert.
And that was it.
That was it.
I can't imagine today the police calling a 15-year-old boy and bring him to the morgue to identify his father.
I bet they do it. I bet they do it.
Maybe, I don't think so, but maybe they do. And then how was your mother notified?
She was working and they gave her a packing slip at work. She was working at the carburetor. And she just said, your father got sick, we're going to take you to the hospital.
And that's all.
Yeah.
Didn't your father love Packards?
Huh?
Didn't your father love big, fancy Packard cars? Big, fancy Packard cars. Your father loved those cars.
Say again?
Did not your father love fancy cars like the Packard? The Packard.
Oh, yeah. He thought that was, he couldn't drive.
You never drove.
Stevie was the one to drive. I didn't drive, I was too young.
How much would that big, fancy Packard cost back then?
Probably 1800.
1800. Describe it to me, how it really looks. Describe it to me.
Well, to me, it looked old-fashioned. It was a four-seater that had those rough seats inside, And I like the grill work on the front. It had that vertical grill work in the V.
How about the hood ornament? You remember what the hood ornament looked like?
The dashboard was all hide carved.
And if your father didn't drive it, who drove it?
I drove it, or no, Stevie drove it because he's older than me. He drove it all over. He bragged about that car.
He did? Is that the car you learned to drive on?
Yeah.
Did you drive your mother around a lot in it?
Oh yeah. That's the only transportation we had.
Would it seat 4 people comfortably?
Yeah.
Would it seat 4 people
Well,
comfortably?
you could seat 3 in the back, three in the front.
So it was like as big as a limousine.
Yeah, but the only problem in the front is the gear shift was on the floor.
A big tall shift lever, which you had to use the clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big, I imagine it was all black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what finally happened to that car?
Well, when I got drafted, they probably sold it. No one could drive. My mother could drive. My father wasn't there. Stevie was in school.
Didn't your brother, 30 years later, buy a Packard and try to restore it?
I don't think so.
He put it in his garage in California? And he said it was stacked with newspapers?
Stevie?
Yeah. He bought some type of Packard and he tried to restore it in Pennsylvania.
Well, he was bound to tell me he wanted to live in California.
Hello.
Pardon me for interrupting.
Hello.
Are you doing anything that can be shared with the rest of us?
Go talk to
Sometime?
her.
Yeah.
Jen will talk to you.
People would love that.
What the
Yeah.
hell is that?
A lot of residents come and sit, but Jen's going to show you how.
Talk and whatever. Well, I meant like, arrange an activity on such and such an evening or something at such and such at 7 o'clock or something like that.
See, they all want to see
What you
you.
want?
It would be wonderful.
See you.
Huh?
Yes.
See
To
you.
me?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Sign up sheet.
Watch you on
I will
TV.
help you.
Oh.
I'm just telling you.
I'll start with the activities. Her name is Kim Underwood. And I can, I'll be happy to go to her and say, here's the situation. Somebody might be contacting you or, between it. But there's someone here who was a woman who was born in Russia. Her parents are Russians.
No, she's not coming
She did
here.
a spoon
No.
presentation at night.
Good riddance. Good riddance.
How are you feeling today?
Huh?
How are you feeling today?
Good.
You look chipper.
Chipper, huh?
Yeah, you look chipper. Did you have a nice dinner?
That chef has been as good as the other one.
What'd you have for dinner?
Stripped scalloped potatoes, not stripped, fish or some stupid thing.
Like your fish and chips?
No, it wasn't fish and chips. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that great. Those two Chinese guys did better.
Yeah. So did you get down for breakfast?
Went for breakfast at 7:30. I skipped lunch.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. Did anyone stop by today?
No, yesterday could have came by. Yesterday with the
Okay.
dog.
Did anyone else stop by?
Oh no, Sally hasn't come by for a while.
What happened?
Mary hasn't come by for a while.
Maybe they're busy.
Matter of fact, they don't even call.
Maybe they're on vacation. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're on vacation. Well, here we go. I'm going to keep reading. She agreed we would not let me go, and she continued to hold me ever so tightly. We stood there interlocked for several minutes when suddenly she reached up and kissed me, let go of me, and said she would see me tomorrow. With that, she walked quickly to the front door, turned and waved, and entered the cottage. I reached the orderly room to sign in, and the CQ was asleep. I did not even know who it is, as his head was covered with his part of a blanket. It was cool in the room, as the fireplaces were almost out. I hurriedly went out to the billets to get my toilet articles and was soon up the hill to shower buildings. Having only washed up and brushed my teeth, I was back at the billets and in my bunk at 1:45 a.m. I thought about the day's events and wondered what Ann was doing for this moment. I tried to transpose the difference this time, but I fell asleep. The first call for breakfast was 5:45 hours, and even though I heard the CQ come through the room blowing his whistle, I decided to sleep in and catch lunch at 12:30 hours. I lay there for a while, mulling over my present situation with Jean. After a bit, I was sorry that I had not gone down for breakfast. They were having pancakes, bacon, and hot cereal with sweet rolls and coffee. I got up and went to the shower and shaved. On my way back, I met Larson, and we talked for a while and wondered where I was keeping myself. What happened to Larson?
What happened to Larson?
Yeah.
He got out of the service. He's too old.
Larson was too old,
Yeah.
and so when they went to combat, they didn't send him in. When you
Well,
guys,
he went in for a week or two, but I told him he's not handling it. He's not keeping it up with us. He could have a heart attack or just disturb the whole company.
how old is old? How old is old? You say he's too old.
How old?
Yeah, how old was Larson?
How old was Larson? Probably in his early 50s.
And he went to combat?
Yeah.
You couldn't keep
Well, they were
up.
hard pressed for God. You had the evacuation, you had the D-Day and everything else.
Yeah, an 18-year-old could handle it. A 50-year-old running through the
No, they couldn't do
snow
it physically or mentally.
couldn't do it physically or mentally, correct. So he went back to the States.
Yeah.
So Larson survived basically the war. He went back to the States.
He went back to work. He had a jewelry store
A jewelry store, where was that?
in Kenmore or Buffalo, somewhere in
Oh,
there.
wow. I lay a while mulling over my present situation with Jean. After a bit, I was sorry that I had not gone down for breakfast. There were pancakes, bacon, hot cereal, sweet rolls, and coffee. I got up and went to the shower and shave. On my way back, I met Larson. While we talked a while, and he wondered where I was keeping myself. I told him I was around and just probably missed one of the comings and goings. He said that he was very likely, as he was been spending considerable time at the regiment headquarters visiting his cousin. He also mentioned that he usually got a ride to Wolf's Castle in a jeep, where the regimental headquarters was builded there. He also said that the return trip was no problem, as there was a regular courier between regiment and various companies. Just then his ride arrived, and he stated he would see me at the dance tonight. Larson had a little of late in his makeup. Even though I liked him, I could not tolerate him for only a short while. Did you have any older soldiers in World War II that also fought in World War as young men?
Lake was one of them.
No,
Lane.
Lane? He
Yeah.
was in World War I?
No, he didn't want, no.
Did you have any soldiers that were in World War I?
No.
Huh. Okay. Well, I was waiting to meet Jean. I wrote several letters. One to my mother and
You got Sergeant Rubart. He was the First World War, yeah.
Okay, who's that now?
Yeah, Sergeant Rubart.
He was in the first.
Section leader, yeah.
He was in the First World War.
Yeah,
He must have been a teenager.
yeah.
And then, what finally happened to him?
Well, he hooked up with us, and then when they found out he couldn't do the work, they just nonchalantly got rid of him.
So he must have been a career man.
Yeah, he was in 25 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
he got a pension and everything.
World War I. He must have been a teenager,
Yeah,
and then he stayed in, and
they were drafted then too.
yeah. Wow. Do you still have your draft notice?
Huh?
Do you still have your draft notice?
Did I see his?
No, do you still have your draft notice copy? The telegram?